6 years ago, I was forced to leave him without even a chance to say goodbye. On the day we met again, I hid beneath the cafe tablecloth, only for him to yank it away. He crouched down, pinching my chin between his fingers, his voice low and icy. "Gu Ran, you think dyeing your hair and covering that mole will make me not recognize you?" The next moment, he pulled that half of our couple's ring from his pocket and whispered with a cold laugh against my ear. "The half you threw away, I've worn it for you these past 6 years." The cafe's air conditioning blasted too cold. I huddled in the booth corner, arms wrapped around myself, my fingertips still stained with spilled latte. My phone buzzed incessantly in my pocket, a message from Mr. Zhang, urging me to sign a contract with that drunken client. Last week he'd grabbed my wrist under the influence. Today, I couldn't possibly go. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure in a gray suit pass through the booth area. My heart clenched, and I dived under the table. The tablecloth draped to the floor, blocking most of the light. Only a sliver of warm yellow light seeped through the gap, illuminating the scuffed hem of my jeans. Before my breathing steadied, familiar footsteps echoed above me, steady, powerful, each thud like a stomp on my heartbeat. The scent of cedar mingled with faint tobacco seeped through the tablecloth's gap, and my fingers clenched the fabric so tightly they turned white. It was Su Nan. 6 years. I thought I'd never smell that scent again in this lifetime. The tablecloth was lifted at one corner, and glaring light flooded in. I instinctively tried to retreat inward, but my forehead collided with a warm hand. The fingertips bore thin calluses. The pressure neither too light nor too heavy, just enough to trap me between his palm and the tabletop. Hiding from me for 6 years. Amusing, isn't it? His voice was deeper than I remembered, cold and hard as ice. His gaze fixed on my face, unapologetically scrutinizing me. I dared not lift my eyes, staring instead at his polished black leather shoes. The tips were speckled with rainwater from outside. He must have come straight back from abroad. "Mr. Su, you must have the wrong person." My voice trembled as my fingertips dug into my palm, trying to force myself to calm down. He snorted derisively, sliding his fingers upward to grip my chin, forcing me to look up. My gaze collided with his deep, dark eyes, churning with emotions I couldn't decipher, anger, and something else, like submerged reefs pressing down, making it hard to breathe. "Gu Ran." He pronounced my name with a heavy emphasis on the last syllable. "Even if you dyed your hair brown and covered the mole at the corner of your eye, I'd still recognize you." My heart skipped a beat. I instinctively tried to push him away, but his other hand pinned my shoulder. He crouched closer, the cedar scent intensifying. His warm breath brushed my cheek. "That client. Is that why you're hiding here?" Before I could answer, "Mr. Zhang's voice echoed from afar. "Xiaogu? Where are you?" "Mr. Wang is getting impatient." My face drained as I struggled to retreat. But Su Nan suddenly pulled me closer into his embrace while dropping the tablecloth to conceal us both. His arm tightened around my waist, and I could feel the distinct vibration of his chest. "Mr. Zhang's footsteps halted outside the booth. I held my breath, palms drenched in sweat. Su Nan looked down at me, a cold sneer curling his lips. "When you left back then, why weren't you this timid?" "Mr. Su, please move aside." I gritted my teeth, trying to push him away, but he only tightened his grip. "Mr. Zhang's footsteps gradually faded. Only then did Su Nan release me, but instead of letting me stand, he reached out and wiped the coffee stain from my face. His touch unexpectedly gentle, his gaze fixed on the reddened corners of my eyes, his tone softening slightly yet retaining its dominance. "Come out. With me." "I can't. Either you come out yourself, or I carry you out." He cut me off, his fingertips lightly pinching my waist, a gesture he used to tease me with back then. Your choice. The space beneath the table was cramped and stuffy. Cedarwood mingled with his scent, making my head spin. I knew following him wouldn't end well. But seeing the stubbornness in his eyes, and that possessiveness that hadn't faded in 6 years, I slowly pushed myself up against the tabletop and crawled out from beneath the table. He stood up, pulling me up by the wrist with a grip so tight it hurt. Staring at his cold, hard profile, something clogged my throat, 6 years apart. And he remained unchanged. No matter where I hid, he'd find me and seize control without a word. Sunan. We're over. I strained to break free, but his grip only tightened. He turned to face me, his eyes tinged with crimson. Whether we're over or not isn't up to you. With that, he dragged me out of the cafe, ignoring the stares of those around us. As the glass door swung open, rain drifted inside, landing on my face. The icy sensation brought me back to my senses. I knew that from the moment he lifted the tablecloth. My 6 years of peace had ended completely. Raindrops pelted the umbrella canopy, creating a steady patter. Sunan gripped my wrist, his hold not loosening an inch. The calluses on his fingertips rubbed painfully against my skin as he dragged me all the way to the black sedan parked by the roadside. He yanked open the door, releasing a stronger scent of cedar mingled with leather, tinged with his signature cologne, 6 years. And he hadn't even changed the car's fragrance. He shoved me into the passenger seat, the seatbelt clicking shut with a sharp click. His movements were so swift they left me no chance to resist. I clutched the hem of my shirt, watching him walk around to the driver's seat, my heart pounding like a caged rabbit. The tinted windows blurred the rain-soaked scenery outside, and the stifling atmosphere inside the car made it hard to breathe. He didn't start the engine right away. Instead, he leaned over, propping his hand on my seat back, trapping me between him and the seat. When I left back then, he said it was a temporary separation. His voice was low, tinged with an almost imperceptible tremor. His knuckles tapped lightly on my seat. Gu ran. Tell me, was temporary supposed to be 6 years? I turned my face away, unable to meet his eyes. Memories of that day surged like a tidal wave, his mother cornering me at the company entrance, clutching my mother's hospital bill and sneering. You're not good enough for Sunan, me clutching the scarf he'd given me, crying until I couldn't breathe at the airport, yet not daring to say goodbye. I opened my mouth, but no words came. The reasons I'd been forced to leave now felt like excuses. Sunan snorted, straightening to rummage through the storage compartment. I noticed his knuckles turn white, my heart clenching in fear he'd explode, only to see him pull out a small velvet box. It was the one we picked out together at the jewelry store years ago. The black edges were worn shiny, clearly a constant companion. He opened it to reveal a half-silver couple's ring. Inside the band was engraved with a tiny G, the first letter of my name. The other half, engraved with Anne's, I'd secretly placed in his study drawer years ago. I'd planned to return for it once I'd sorted things at home, never expecting my absence would last 6 years. I've worn this half for 6 years. He picked up the ring, his fingertips gently tracing the engraving on the band. His voice was heavy, as if a stone weighed upon it. And you? Gu ran. Where did you put the half I gave you? Tears welled up suddenly in my eyes. My fingertips grew cold, and I instinctively reached for my neck, the half engraved with Anne's. I'd kept it tied with a red string around my neck, hidden beneath my clothes, never taking it off for 6 years. But now, I lacked the courage to show it to him. I threw it away. I clenched my teeth, deliberately speaking harshly, hoping he'd stop pestering me. Sunan, we ended things long ago. It's just a ring. There's no need. Before I could finish, he suddenly yanked open my collar. The ring dangling from the red string was exposed, its silver band glinting in the dim light. His movement froze. The anger in his eyes instantly faded, replaced by a complex emotion, like heartache. Yet also like hurt. You threw it away? He picked up the ring, his fingertips lightly brushing my collarbone. As if afraid of breaking something. Gu ran. You can't even lie properly. My tears couldn't hold back any longer, falling onto the back of his hand. He didn't pull away. Just let my tears dampen his skin before slowly releasing his grip and sliding back into the driver's seat. The car fell silent except for the sound of rain. He stared at the steering wheel, remaining quiet for a long time before speaking. I searched for you for 3 years while I was abroad. I had people track down your family's address. Went to your old company. Even visited the hospital where your mother stayed back then. His voice was slightly hoarse. Gu ran. What exactly are you hiding from? I clutched the ring, my fingertips tracing the engraved pattern on its band. The pent-up resentment in my heart burst forth like a dam breaking. Back then, my mother was gravely ill, and our family was deep in debt. His mother pressured me to leave, threatening to cut off financial support for my family. Afraid of dragging him down, I had no choice but to vanish. All these years, I worked to pay off the debt while keeping tabs on him. I knew he'd made a name for himself abroad, but I never dared to approach him again. I tried to explain, but he suddenly started the car. The engine's roar shattered the cabin's silence. His hands gripped the steering wheel, his gaze fixed ahead. His tone regaining its former intensity. Don't even think about hiding from me again. 6 years wasn't spent waiting for nothing. The car glided smoothly through the rain. I had no idea where he was taking me, so I just clutched the ring around my neck and watched the street scenes flash by outside the window. The scent of cedar in the cabin mingled with his scent, reminding me of the times we used to watch the rain together in the car. My heart felt bitter and sour. I thought we'd missed our chance long ago. But I never imagined he'd burst back into my life in such a forceful way. The car finally stopped beneath my rented apartment building. The rain hadn't let up. He unbuckled his seatbelt but didn't let me out. Instead, he turned to look at me. Don't even think about moving tonight. I'll be coming over. His eyes held an unyielding stubbornness. I knew he meant every word. Staring at his cold, hard profile, a sudden panic gripped me, the 6 years of calm shattered. I felt like I was being pulled back into that world where he controlled everything. But this time, I didn't feel the urge to run away. 11 o'clock at night. The motion-activated lights in the hallway had long since gone dark. Crouching beside my suitcase, the glow from my phone illuminated the scattered clothes on the floor. My fingers trembled so much I could barely fold a shirt. I had to move before Sunan arrived. His words from earlier, "I'll come," felt like a thorn lodged in my heart. I knew his temper too well. Once he made up his mind, there was no changing it. If I waited for him, I'd never get away. The suitcase was one I'd secretly retrieved from the storage room that afternoon. I'd packed only a few everyday clothes and that ring tied to a red string. There was no time for anything else. Afraid of alerting the neighbors, I didn't dare turn on the light. By the faint glow of my phone, I reached for the doorknob. Just as my fingertips touched the cold metal, a soft click echoed through the hallway. The motion-activated light had turned on. I whipped my head around in terror, my heart nearly leaping out of my chest. Sunan sat on the stair landing directly across from me, his gray suit jacket draped over his arm. The top 2 buttons of his white shirt were undone, and faint red veins traced his eyes. A brown paper bag lay at his feet, its opening revealing half a sugar cake from that old-school bakery I used to adore. Its fragrance mingled with the night's chill, drifting over and stinging my nose. "Where are you going?" His voice echoed hollowly in the empty hallway, devoid of emotion, yet it made my limbs go stiff. Clutching the doorknob, I tried to pretend I hadn't seen him, but his rising figure froze me in place. He was slightly taller than 6 years ago. Standing on the steps looking down, The shadows enveloped me like an impenetrable net. I'm moving to a new place. I avoided his gaze. My voice barely above a whisper. My fingers digging into the doorknob. He descended the steps. His footsteps silent until he stood before me. Then reached down to lift the suitcase at my feet. The wheels scraped across the floor with a sharp squeak. He glanced inside. Raising an eyebrow, "That's all you're taking? When you left back then? You even took the scarf I gave you." My face flushed instantly. That gray scarf, he'd bought it with his first month's salary. Wool. Incredibly warm in winter. I'd kept it with me for 6 years. Still folded at the bottom of my wardrobe. I hadn't expected him to remember even that. "Sunan. We're no longer together. Where I move. We are connected." He interrupted, setting the suitcase against the wall with a dull thud. "Ever since you accepted this ring." He pointed at the red string visible around my neck. "Besides, where do you think you can move? The landlord transferred the lease to me last week." I froze. My mouth agape. No wonder the landlord suddenly demanded a rent hike last week and said I could leave if I wanted. He'd orchestrated it all. Anger and panic surged through me. Yet I couldn't find a single argument to counter him. He always did this, blocking every escape route. Trapping me by his side. He bent down, picked up the brown paper bag at his feet, and handed it to me. "Just bought these. They're still warm. Have some." The sugar cakes inside were still warm, burning my fingertips. The shop was in the old town, far from where I lived, and it should have closed long ago at this hour. He must have gone out of his way to buy them. Holding the bag, I remembered how we used to go there together. He'd always pick the sesame seeds off his cake and give them to me, saying, "You like them, so they're all yours." "I don't eat them." I pushed the bag back, my tone a bit sharp, but I didn't dare meet his eyes. He didn't take it, letting the bag hang in midair, his eyes carrying a hint of resignation. "Gu ran. I waited for you for 3 hours. From your apartment entrance to the hallway. Just to give you this." He paused, his voice softening. "I know you had your reasons for leaving back then. If you don't want to talk about it, I can wait. But don't think you can hide from me." The motion sensor light in the hallway suddenly cut out, plunging us into darkness. Clutching the bag, I could hear his breath clearly, along with my own heart pounding. After a few seconds, he reached out and pressed my shoulder lightly. "Go inside. It's cold out here." I didn't move, something clogging my chest. In the darkness, his voice came again, trembling with lingering fear. 6 years ago, you vanished suddenly. I searched everywhere and couldn't find you. That feeling. I never want to go through it again." The motion-activated light flickered back on. I looked up and met his eyes, churning with a vulnerability I'd never seen before, like a child afraid of losing their toy. The sugar cake in my hand was still warm, its fragrance tickling my nose and reminding me of the warmth of those years. I knew I couldn't leave this time. Or perhaps I never wanted to leave at all. He picked up the suitcase, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. "Don't even think about sneaking out again. Without my permission, you're not going anywhere." I followed behind him, watching his retreating figure, clutching the warm sweet cake in my hand. He switched on the light inside, and the warm yellow glow filled the room, suddenly making it feel less desolate. I knew that starting tonight, my 6 years of peaceful life were completely over. Yet, surprisingly, I didn't feel the resistance I'd imagined. Instead, there was a strange sense of reassurance. Perhaps I should have faced him long ago. Morning light seeped through the curtain slits, casting long, narrow streaks across the floor. I stared at the ceiling, wide awake after a sleepless night. My mind was filled with Sunan's silhouette standing in the room last night, And his words, "You're not going anywhere without my permission." The sugar cake still sat on the nightstand, its crumpled wrapper worn from my touch. The sesame aroma had long faded, yet I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Just as I turned to drift back to sleep, urgent knocking erupted outside the door, not soft taps, but forceful blows that pounded relentlessly against the wood. My heart clenched. I knew without a doubt it was Sunan. Grabbling for my coat, I threw it on haphazardly and scurried to the door in my slippers. Peering through the peephole, he stood in the hallway, clad in a black trench coat, clutching a dark brown notebook. Morning light fell on his shoulders, stretching his shadow long. The red veins in his eyes were more pronounced than last night, clearly. He hadn't slept either. "Open up." His voice came through the door, hoarse yet commanding. I bit my lip, my hand hesitating on the doorknob for a few seconds before I pulled it open. The moment I cracked the door, he pushed his way in, slamming the notebook onto the entryway cabinet. It was a household register. Dark brown cover, edges slightly worn, clearly retrieved with purpose. "What do you want?" I took a step back, staring at the household register as my heart pounded wildly. He didn't answer, merely bending to change his shoes with the ease of someone at home. 6 years ago, he often visited my rented apartment, always complaining about my messy shoe rack and tidying it up for me. Now, his fingertips brushed against the slippers on the rack. He paused, then picked up the same pair of gray ones he used to wear back then, though worn out. I'd never thrown them away. "Change your clothes." He straightened up, his gaze sweeping over my wrinkled pajamas. His tone brooked no argument. "In 10 minutes. We're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau." "Are you out of your mind?" I nearly shouted, reaching for the household register on the entryway cabinet. But he snatched it first. "Sunan, we haven't seen each other in 6 years. Taking me to register now, what the hell are you thinking?" His knuckles turned white as he clutched the book. His eyes held a stubbornness I couldn't decipher, mixed with a hint of hurt. "I've been thinking," he said. "For 6 years. I've owed you something. It's time to pay it back." He stepped closer, the scent of cedar mingling with the morning air. "When you left back then, you didn't say goodbye. You just vanished. Gu ran. As far as I'm concerned, we never ended." But I opened my mouth, wanting to explain the reasons from back then, yet found no words. Those days pressured by his mother, those nights scrambling to scrape together medical bills, speaking of them would only make us both suffer more. He seemed to read my hesitation, reaching out to grasp my wrist. The pressure wasn't heavy, yet I couldn't pull away. "I know you have your reasons. I can wait for you to tell me slowly, but getting the marriage certificate can't wait." He waved the household register in his hand. "I went back home last night and found this. I've already talked to my mom. She won't interfere with us anymore." I froze. I hadn't expected him to have even resolved things with his mother. Back then, when she'd forced me to leave so aggressively, I'd assumed their relationship was irreparably strained. Yet here he was, confronting his own mother for my sake. "How could you?" "For you? Arguing with my mom? That's nothing." He cut me off, his tone softening slightly. 6 years ago, I failed to protect you, letting you walk alone for so long. This time, I refused to miss my chance. Seeing the red veins in his eyes and the way he clutched the household register, something hit me in the gut, a wave of bittersweet tenderness. He could have found someone better. Yet he waited 6 years for me. And now, he was using such forceful means to keep me by his side. "I'm not ready," I murmured, my fingertips lightly brushing his hand. Tentatively. He didn't let go. Instead, he tightened his grip and steered me toward the door. "I've been ready for 6 years. That's enough." He glanced back at me, a faint smile playing on his lips. Gu ran. Stop hiding. Come with me to get our marriage certificate. Will you? The motion-activated lights in the hallway flickered on, startled by our footsteps. He pulled me downstairs, clutching the household register as if afraid I might run away. The black sedan had been waiting downstairs all along. The driver respectfully opened the door, clearly. This had been arranged long ago. I sat in the passenger seat, watching him bend down to get in, still holding my coat, which he casually draped over my shoulders. The car moved slowly, heading toward the Civil Affairs Bureau. Morning light streamed through the window onto his face. As I watched his profile, focused on driving, my resistance suddenly softened. Perhaps, as he said, we never truly ended. The 6-year void might indeed be filled anew with a marriage certificate. Clutching the coat draped over me, its cedar scent mingling with the sun's warmth, I slowly lowered my guard. Maybe this time, I could try not to avoid him anymore. The car pulled up outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. He unbuckled his seatbelt, turned to look at me, and tightened his grip on my hand. Come on. Gu ran. It's time we made up for those 6 years. The air conditioning in the bureau lobby was even stronger than in the cafe. My palm was sweaty as I clutched Sunan's hand. His fingers were long and slender, his grip steady and firm, enveloping my hand as if passing warmth through his touch. Ahead, couples chatted and laughed in line. A woman held bouquets of flowers while a man bent down to tuck a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Their effortless intimacy reminded me of us 6 years ago. Back then, he'd always shield me behind him in crowds, his fingertips secretly hooking the hem of my shirt. Next up, Sunan and Gu ran. The staff member's voice rang out. I instinctively tried to step back, but Sunan pulled me forward. His stride was steady. Passing a flower stall, he casually bought a single red rose. He carefully stripped the thorns from the stem and placed it in my hand, just a last-minute buy. I'll get you a bigger bouquet later. The rose petals were still damp, tickling my fingertips. Clutching the stem, I followed him into the photo booth. The backdrop was a vivid crimson, like a blazing fire, making our cheeks flush. The photographer raised his camera, smiling as he said, "Move closer together. Smile. Young lady, don't be so nervous." I tried to tug at the corners of my mouth, but my gaze drifted sideways. Sunan stood right beside me. His white shirt collar was neatly buttoned, his profile sharp against the crimson backdrop. His jawline was slightly tense, yet the earnestness in his eyes was unmistakable. It had been 6 years since we'd stood this close. The scent of cedar mingled with rose from his body made my head spin, and I found myself breathing cautiously. The guy should move closer, tilt his head toward the girl. The photographer spoke again, raising his camera higher. Sunan didn't hesitate. He shifted his body toward me, his shoulder nearly touching mine. His warmth radiated through his shirt, making my ears tingle. I still couldn't meet the camera's gaze, my eyes darting instead to the buttons on his cuff, silver, just like the ones on that shirt he used to wear all the time. Suddenly, his hand reached out, his fingertips gently cupping the back of my head. The pressure wasn't strong, yet it carried an undeniable command, pulling my face toward him. My forehead bumped against his shoulder, and I could hear his heartbeat clearly, thump, thump, as fast as mine. Look at the camera. His voice brushed against my ear, his warm breath tickling my neck until it trembled. Gu ran. Starting today, you bear the Su surname. The words struck my heart like a pebble, sending ripples outward. I jerked my head up, meeting the camera's gaze just as the photographer pressed the shutter. In that instant, I saw the smile playing on Sunan's lips, not his usual cold, hard expression, but a gentle, genuine smile, like the boy who bought me sugar cakes in the sunshine 6 years ago. All done. Pick up the photos later to get your certificate. The photographer set down his camera and handed me a tissue with a smile. Look how nervous you are, your palms are sweaty. Sunan took the tissue and gently wiped my palms first. His movements as natural as if he'd done it 1,000 times. Watching him bend down, his long lashes casting soft shadows beneath his eyes. My eyes suddenly stung. 6 years hadn't made us strangers after all. He still remembered how easily I got nervous. Still instinctively looked out for me. While waiting for the photos, he took my hand and led me to sit on a bench in the lobby. Clutching the red rose, I whispered, "Are you sure you don't regret this? We've only just reunited. And now, no regrets." He cut me off, turning to look at me with unwavering certainty. "I should have married you 6 years ago. I didn't hold on to you then, letting you slip away for all these years. Now's the time to make it right. It's not too late." He reached up and touched the red string around my neck, his fingertips brushing against the ring. "After we get married, we'll take it to be polished. From now on, you'll wear it. Don't ever take it off again." I nodded and leaned my face against his shoulder. People came and went in the hall, their voices and laughter mingling together. Yet it didn't feel noisy at all. The red rose in my hand was fragrant, his palm warm. Suddenly, I felt that all those years of grievances and waiting had been worth it. "Sunan, Gu Ran, please come forward to collect your photos and marriage certificate." The staff member's voice rang out again. Sunan pulled me up. In the photo, we stood close together, a faint smile on my lips, tenderness in his eyes. The red backdrop made us both look especially vibrant. He took the photo and household register to the registration window. As he handed them over, his fingertips lightly brushed mine. "Gu Ran, from now on, we'll never be apart again." I gazed at his earnest profile, my heart melting. I nodded firmly, yes. Never apart again. The moment we received the marriage certificate, the red booklet felt heavy in my hands. I knew that from this instant, the chapter of Sunan and my story had finally turned. Those blank 6 years would be gradually filled by the years to come. Stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the sunlight was perfect, streaming through the car window onto the red cover of the marriage certificate, its warmth gently dazzling my eyes. Sunan carefully tucked the certificate into his inner pocket, as if guarding a priceless treasure. While driving, his fingertips would occasionally brush against the pocket, reassuring himself it was still there. "Aren't we going back to my rental?" I asked, unable to resist as the increasingly unfamiliar streets passed by the window. My rental was in the old city district, but here the high-rises grew denser, and the roadside greenery bore the marks of meticulous trimming, clearly the direction of an upscale residential complex. His hand on the steering wheel paused. He turned his head to look at me, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I won't be living there anymore. I'm taking you somewhere." The car finally stopped beneath a riverside apartment building. The security guard, recognizing Sunan's vehicle, promptly and respectfully opened the gate. Clearly, he was a frequent visitor here. As the elevator ascended, the floor indicator jumped from 1 to 28. I gripped the hem of my shirt, a flutter of unease stirring within. He'd never mentioned owning a place here. The elevator doors slid open. Sunan guided me to the innermost door, and with the click of his fingerprint unlocking it, the door swung inward. A familiar scent of cedar mingled with the faint fragrance of gardenias wafted out. It wasn't perfume, it was the fresh, clean scent of gardenias drifting from a vase in the entryway, my favorite flowers. 6 years ago, he'd always place a few stems on my windowsill. I froze at the doorway, hesitating to step inside. The living room was decorated in minimalist black and white, yet every detail bore my imprint. Draped over the sofa was a beige knitted blanket, the one I'd started crocheting years ago but never finished. Now it was complete, its edges embroidered with a tiny G. On the coffee table lay an open cookbook, its pages held by a seashell bookmark I'd bought during a trip. The book was paused at the sweet and sour fish recipe. Beside it, Den's handwritten notes in his script marked less sugar. Ran doesn't like things too sweet. Go in and take a look. Sunan gently nudged my back, his voice carrying a barely perceptible edge of tension. I stepped onto the plush carpet and walked inside, my gaze sweeping every corner. My heart felt filled with something, a bittersweet, tender ache. On the study desk lay The Little Prince, the book I never finished reading back then. A bookmark made from candy wrapper was tucked between its pages. The wrapper had yellowed, yet I could still recognize it as the packaging from the tangerine candy he'd given me years ago. On the bookshelf, volumes by my favorite authors stood neatly arranged, including several notebooks of essays I'd written in college. My messy signature graced their covers, clearly. He'd sought them out deliberately. What truly brought tears to my eyes was the wardrobe in the bedroom. Opening the doors, I nearly wept. On the left hung Sunan's suits and shirts, while the right side was entirely filled with my clothes. From spring dresses to winter down jackets, every piece was in my size, M, and each style mirrored the tastes I cherished back then. A beige wool coat hung in the most prominent spot. I remembered that coat. I'd stared at it in the shop window for ages back then. Too stingy to buy it. Now it was here. Tag still attached. All these years, whenever I went on business trips, I'd bring you back a piece of clothing. Sunan gently embraced me from behind, his chin resting on my hair. His voice was slightly hoarse. I never knew if you'd come back, or if you'd gained or lost weight. So I just bought things in your old size, thinking that if you did return, you'd have something to wear. I clutched the hem of that wool coat, my fingertips trembling. Inside the wardrobe drawer, my old hair ties still lay, pink ones, blue ones, tangled in a transparent box. There was also my favorite sleeping mask, with a recent expiration date, clearly something he'd been buying regularly. I turned around, tears finally spilling onto his shirt. Why did you do this? I've been gone for 6 years. You could have. Without you, no matter how well I live, it's meaningless. He cut me off, reaching out to wipe my tears. His fingertips, calloused from work, tickled my cheek. Every time I see these things, I feel like you haven't gone far. Like if I wait just a little longer, you'll push open the door and say, Sunan, I'm back. On the bay windowsill of the bedroom sat a small glass jar filled with orange candy wrappers, orange and white ones, neatly stacked like the ones I used to tuck into my photo albums. Sunan followed my gaze and smiled. You used to save wrappers, saying they were pretty. So I kept every one from the candies I ate, thinking we'd make wind chimes together when you returned. I buried my face in his chest and cried like a child. All these years, I thought I'd been the one struggling, never realizing he'd suffered more. For 6 years, he'd preserved my traces in every corner of his life, waiting for someone who might never return. I'm sorry, Sunan. I made you wait so long. My voice choked as I clutched his shirt. He gently patted my back, soothing me like a hurt child. It's okay. You're back now. He bent down and kissed my forehead. This home is only complete with you in it. The river view outside the window was breathtaking. Sunlight danced across the water, like a layer of gold dust, nestled in Sunan's embrace. I looked at my clothes in the wardrobe, at my books on the desk, and suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of peace. I wasn't homeless after all. He had been here all along, spending 6 years building a home for me, waiting for my return. The setting sun bathed the living room's floor-to-ceiling windows in warm orange light. Sitting on the sofa, my fingertips still held the soft memory of the wool coat's texture. Sunan emerged from the bedroom in loungewear, a light gray knit sweater softening his features. Holding a navy blue apron, He approached me and suddenly bent down. "Help me tie this?" The apron strings hung low at his waist. As I stood to reach for them, my fingers accidentally brushed his back, the warm sensation making my cheeks flush. My fingertips tied the straps into a simple knot. As he turned, the hem of the apron brushed against the back of my hand. A light, fabric-soft tickle. "Wait here a moment. I'll be done soon." He ruffled my hair, then turned and walked into the kitchen, leaving behind a trail of light footsteps. I leaned against the doorframe at the kitchen entrance, watching his busy figure. He pulled a fresh sea bass from the refrigerator, its gills already cleaned, clearly prepared in advance. The sound of running water filled the sink as he skillfully scaled the fish. Droplets occasionally touched his fingertips when he wiped his brow. A faint wet trail remained on his temple. 6 years ago, he often cooked for me too. Back then, we squeezed into the tiny kitchen of our rented apartment, bumping into each other with every turn. He always said I got in the way standing there, yet he'd still slip washed strawberries into my mouth. Now this kitchen is spacious and bright, with a built-in oven and marble countertops exuding elegance. But the way he cooks remains exactly the same as it was back then. "Pass me the cooking wine over there." He glanced back at me, spatula still in hand, a smile in his eyes. I hurried over and grabbed the bottle from the spice rack. As I handed it to him, the cold glass accidentally brushed his fingers. He flinched slightly, then suddenly grabbed my wrist and pulled me close. "Careful. Don't spill it." His palm held the warmth of the kitchen, his fingertips gently wiping away a droplet of water from my wrist. Leaning against him, I could smell the cedar scent on his skin mingled with the sweet aroma of sweet and sour sauce. The oil sizzled in the wok, and the moment the fish hit the pan, the fragrance instantly filled the kitchen, making my stomach growl. "When you made sweet and sour fish before, you always picked out all the bones for me," I murmured, watching his hands turn the fish, my voice soft as a whisper. His movements paused. He turned his head to look at me, the curve of his lips deepening. "I still do it for you." He added a spoonful of sugar to the pot, then seemed to remember something. Scooping out a small portion, he said, "You don't like it too sweet. I noted it in the recipe last time." My eyes suddenly stung. That cookbook I'd seen on the coffee table this morning, he hadn't just flipped through it casually. He truly etched my preferences into his heart. The sweet and sour sauce in the pot gradually thickened, coating the fish in amber glaze. He turned off the heat, transferred the fish to a white porcelain plate, and sprinkled a handful of emerald green scallions over it. Instantly, the kitchen filled with the comforting aroma of home cooking. Ready to eat. He untied his apron, draping it casually over the chair back, then turned to fetch bowls and chopsticks. The dining table stood beside the floor-to-ceiling window. The setting sun cast its glow directly onto the plate, making the fish's sheen look especially tempting. He placed a piece of deboned fish into my bowl. The chopsticks tapped lightly against the porcelain. "Try it. See if I've gotten any worse since before." I picked up a small piece and placed it in my mouth. The sweet and sour sauce spread across my tongue. The fish tender to perfection, without a hint of fishiness. That familiar taste acted like a switch, instantly opening the floodgates of memory. That winter 6 years ago, when I had a high fever, he had cooked sweet and sour fish in the small kitchen just like this, brought it to my bedside, and fed it to me, saying, "Eat something sweet, it helps you get better faster." Tears spilled into my bowl, splashing rice grains. I quickly lowered my head to wipe them away, but he reached out and held my chopsticks steady. His fingertips carried a faint warmth as they gently rested on the back of my hand. "What's wrong? Doesn't it taste good?" "No," I choked out, shaking my head. When I looked up, my gaze met his eyes, filled with worry. "It's too good. Just as good as before." He said nothing, only reached across the table to wipe the tears from my cheeks. The soft calluses on his fingertips tickled my skin, yet brought me an unusual sense of security. "I'll cook for you every day from now on." His voice was deep and gentle. "Tell me what you want to eat in advance, and I'll make it for you." I nodded, picking up a piece of fish and holding it to his lips. As he opened his mouth, laughter rippled through his eyes like water undulating. The sunset light fell on his lashes, casting a soft golden glow. The gardenias beside the table bloomed perfectly, their fragrance mingling with the sweet aroma of the sweet and sour fish, filling the small space. It felt as if all the warmth of midsummer had been bottled into this evening. After dinner, as I cleared the dishes, he embraced me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "Don't wash them. Leave them for tomorrow, I'll handle it." His breath tickled my neck, laced with post-meal languor. "Shall we go to the balcony and watch the river?" 2 cushions lay on the wicker chair, my favorite light beige. He guided me to sit down. Boats on the river left long trails of wake as the sun sank, painting the sky a soft pink and purple. His hand clasped mine, his fingertips gently tracing the lines on my palm, as if to confirm I was truly there beside him. "Gu ran," he said suddenly, his voice tinged with contentment. "This is truly wonderful." Leaning against his shoulder, I watched the distant sunset, my heart softening as if soaked in warm water. Yes, this was truly wonderful, having him by my side. Warm meals to share, scenery to admire. Those blank years seemed like mere preludes, existing only to make us cherish each other more deeply in this moment. As the last traces of sunset light on the river were swallowed by night, Sunan finally took my hand and led me back from the balcony to the living room. He didn't turn on the main light, leaving only the floor lamp beside the sofa. The warm yellow glow cast a small circle of light on the floor, making the fragrance of gardenias seem even softer. "I'm going to take a shower." He ruffled my hair, then turned toward the bathroom. The hem of his light gray knit sweater brushed against the back of my hand, leaving a faint warmth. I sat on the sofa, my fingertips unconsciously tracing the embroidery on the throw pillow, a tiny gardenia, stitched with such precision it was clearly his handiwork. The afternoon's leftover sugar cake still sat on the coffee table, its wrapper neatly folded beside the open cookbook. Next to the notes on the sweet and sour fish recipe, a new line had been added. Gu Ran said it was delicious. "Add more scallions next time." The sound of running water echoed from the bathroom, mingling with the melody he occasionally hummed, an old song he used to sing on the balcony of our rented apartment 6 years ago. Back then, I'd tease him about his off-key singing, but now, hearing it warmed my heart. The water stopped. He emerged wearing a black bathrobe, hair still dripping. Droplets fell from his ends onto his collarbone, sliding down the neckline of the robe and leaving damp trails. "Your turn." He handed me an off-white bath towel embroidered with my initial, G. It was new, chosen in my favorite soft material, and filled with hot water, just the right temperature. I took the towel and stepped into the bathroom. The mirror was veiled in a thin mist. On the vanity sat a new toothbrush and skincare products, all my usual brands. The toothpaste was already squeezed onto the cup, the water level precisely covering the bottom. He was always like this, attending to every detail, leaving me no room for awkwardness. After my shower, the floor lamp in the living room was still on, but Sunan wasn't on the sofa. The bedroom door stood slightly ajar, letting out a soft glow. I pushed it open gently, and my heart skipped a beat. Fresh sheets lay spread across the bed, light gray, dotted with several blooms of fresh gardenia, matching those in the vase in the living room. Their fragrance filled the air, mingling with the cedar scent from his body. Sunan sat on the edge of the bed, holding a dry towel. Seeing me enter, he rose and walked toward me, naturally taking the damp bath towel from my hands. He draped the dry towel over my head and gently began drying my hair. His movements were gentle, his fingertips carefully avoiding my crown to prevent any discomfort. The towel's fibers brushed warmly against my scalp. Leaning into his embrace, I could clearly hear his heartbeat, slightly faster than usual, carrying a barely perceptible edge of tension. "Your hair's grown," he said suddenly, his voice close to my ear, tinged with the warmth of his breath. "6 years ago, you still had short hair. You said it was easier to manage." I nodded, remembering how I looked back then, my hair barely past my ears. He always said I looked like a tomboy, yet he'd still crouch on the small balcony to blow dry my hair after I washed it. Now my hair reached my shoulders, but his movements as he dried it were exactly the same as before. As my hair neared dryness, he placed the towel on the nightstand, turned off the bedroom light, leaving only the dim bedside lamp. Warm yellow light fell across his face, revealing the red veins beneath his eyes and the tenderness hidden within. He lifted me onto the bed, lay down beside me, gently wrapped his arm around my waist, and pulled me closer into his embrace. Gu ran, his chin resting on my hair, his voice hoarse and trembling with lingering fear. "I sometimes dream that you've vanished again. I search everywhere, but I can't find you." My heart clenched sharply. I wrapped my arms around his waist, pressing my face against his chest, feeling the vibrations from his chest. "Not anymore," I whispered softly, my fingertips gently tracing the scar on his lower back, the one he got years ago saving me from a bicycle. All this time, and it still hadn't faded. "I'll never leave again." He didn't speak, only held me tighter, his grip so strong it made me gasp for breath. Yet I couldn't bear to push him away. His lips found my earlobe, biting it lightly, a touch of punishment. Yet more so, dependence. "I want to trap you in my arms, so you can't go anywhere." The words fell like feathers against my ear, carrying his warmth and breath, instantly making my eyes sting. I knew he didn't truly want to confine me. It was 6 years of waiting that had made him so afraid of losing me. I reached up to stroke the back of his head, my fingers tangling in his hair and gently massaging it. "Okay," I murmured. "I won't leave. I'll stay right here in your arms." His kisses trailed down my earlobe, landing on my neck with a warm touch. The gardenias by the bedside were in full bloom, their fragrance mingling with his breath and filling the small bedroom. Nestled in his embrace, feeling his warmth and listening to his heartbeat, I suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of security, the emptiness of these 6 years. The waiting, all found their purpose in this moment. Late into the night, as I drifted toward sleep, I felt him draw closer, his arms tightening around me. His lips murmured something indistinct, like "don't leave me," or perhaps "I love you so much." I reached up and patted his back, soothing him like a child who'd been hurt, my heart melting completely. The truest love isn't the kind that sails smoothly from the start. It's the kind that, even after 6 years apart, even through misunderstandings and waiting, finds its way back to each other. It fills every empty space with the years to come. Slowly, steadily, as the last glimmer of sunset on the river vanished into the night, Sunan led me back to the bedroom. A warm yellow lamp cast soft light over the bedding. The off-white duvet cover was embroidered with delicate gardenia patterns, echoing the flowers in the vase by the entrance. He walked over to draw the curtains, his fingertips brushing the sill as he shifted the candy wrapper jar placed there earlier, fearing the night breeze might blow dust into its opening. "Want to take a shower first?" He turned to look at me, holding a clean bath towel, my favorite light gray, with a tiny embroidered along the edge, matching the clothes in the wardrobe. Clearly, it had been prepared long ago. In the bathroom sat rose-scented shower gel. "You always said this scent was calming." I took the towel, my fingertips brushing the soft fabric, my heart trembling with warmth. Stepping into the bathroom, I indeed caught the familiar scent of roses. On the counter sat a newly unwrapped toothbrush. The toothpaste already squeezed onto the bristles, the curve of the paste mirroring the one he'd once made for me in our rented apartment. The hot water washed over me, rinsing away the day's weariness and the last traces of self-consciousness. When I emerged, towel wrapped and dry, I found Su Nan seated on the bedside, holding the ring tied to a red cord. His fingertips traced the engraved band with such focused intensity it seemed he was studying some precious artifact. "Come here." He looked up at me, beckoning with a wave, his voice deeper than usual, carrying a magnetic quality unique to the night. I walked over. He reached out, took my wrist, and pulled me close. Rising to his feet, he towered a head above me. His warm breath fell on my forehead, the scent of cedar mingled with the freshness of his shower, bringing an inexplicable sense of calm. He bent down, untied the red cord around my neck, and picked up the ring engraved with Anne's. Then he reached into his pocket for the other half he always carried, gently joining them together, forming a perfect circle. The inner band stouched tightly, mirroring the closeness between us at that moment. "Tomorrow we'll have them soldered together," he said, holding the joined rings before my eyes. Under the light, the silver bands shimmered. "This way, they'll never be separated again." Staring at the whole ring, tears nearly spilled again. He reached out to wipe the moisture from my eyes. His fingertips bore thin calluses, yet his touch was so gentle it seemed afraid of shattering me. "Why are you always crying?" He smiled, leaning down to kiss the corner of my eye. "Today should be a happy day." His kiss was light, like a feather brushing my skin, carrying a hint of ticklishness. I instinctively closed my eyes as his kisses drifted downward, landing on my nose, then my lips. There was no hurried demand, only patient tenderness, as if savoring something precious. 6 years of longing and waiting melted into that kiss. Drop by drop, I wrapped my arms around his waist, my fingers clutching his pajama top, feeling the vibrations from his chest. His arms tightened slowly, drawing me completely into his embrace. The pressure wasn't heavy, yet it carried an undeniable possessiveness, as if he wanted to mold me into his very bones. Gu ran. He pulled away from my lips, his forehead pressed against mine. His breath came in short gasps, his eyes churning with deep emotion, relief at finding what was lost, and a hint of fear he couldn't hide. These past 6 years, I lived in constant dread, dreading you'd never return, dreading you'd found someone else, dreading I'd never find you again. My fingers traced the contours of his shoulder blades, feeling the suppressed tremors within his body. "I'm sorry," I choked out, "for making you wait so long. No need for apologies." He shook his head, kissing the top of my head. His voice was hoarse, tinged with stubborn earnestness. "Now that you're back, you're never leaving again." He held me as we sat on the bed, letting me nestle into his embrace. The night outside deepened, only the warm glow of the lamp enveloping us. His chin rested on my hair, his fingers gently combing through it like soothing a frightened little animal. After a long while, he spoke, his voice soft as a whisper yet unwaveringly firm. "I'll keep you trapped in my arms, so you can't go anywhere." There was no coercion in those words, only deep dependence and cherishing, like a child who'd finally found their beloved toy and never wanted to let go. I snuggled deeper into his embrace, burying my face further, clearly hearing his strong heartbeat and feeling his warm body heat. "Okay," I murmured softly, my voice slightly nasal yet perfectly clear. "I won't leave. I'll never leave." His arms tightened around me, as if trying to embed me into his very being. The bedroom was quiet, filled only with our breathing and the occasional rustle of leaves outside the window, stirred by the river breeze. I knew that from this wedding night onward, the days of waiting, longing, and unease were finally over. From now on, Every night I would wake in his arms, breathe in the familiar scent of cedar, and hear him whisper, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." These days, trapped in his embrace, were not confinement. They were the peace and happiness I had waited 6 years for. When the morning light seeped through the curtains, I woke first. Sunan slept beside me, his breath steady. His eyelashes cast faint shadows beneath his eyes, softening his usual sharpness. His arms still encircled my waist, his palm resting warm against my lower abdomen like an invisible anchor, holding me firmly by his side. Recalling I hadn't gone to the office yesterday. My phone must be flooded with messages. I needed to get back quickly to handle them. I tried to gently move his hand away, my touch as light as if afraid of breaking something. But the moment I shifted, his arm tightened around me, pulling me closer into his embrace. His chin rested on my hair, his voice hoarse from sleep. "Where are you going?" I froze, my heart skipping a beat. He was awake and had seen my every move. I need to check on things at the office. I missed yesterday, and there must be a lot to handle. I murmured my explanation, avoiding his gaze, afraid to meet the stubbornness in his eyes. No rush. His fingertips brushed lightly against my waist, sending a tingle through me. "Let's have breakfast first." "But work." I already notified them. He cut me off, his voice carrying an unquestionable certainty. "Tell your boss you're taking paid leave for a few days. Sort out things at home first." I whipped my head around, colliding with his clear gaze. A faint smile played within it. He'd clearly planned this all along. "Why didn't you tell me?" I felt a flicker of exasperation, yet couldn't muster anger. He always did this, arranging everything meticulously, leaving me no room to object. Yet his thoughtfulness was evident in every detail. He didn't answer, just rolled over and pinned me beneath him, bracing his arms on either side of me, his nose touching mine. The scent of cedar mingled with his body heat washed over me, making my cheeks burn. "You used to rush to the office before dawn to meet project deadlines, skipping breakfast altogether." His fingertips traced the curve of my jaw, his touch gentle. "Now that I'm here, I won't let you push yourself like that anymore." I turned my face away, trying to hide the flutter in my heart. But he gently turned me back. He leaned down and kissed the corner of my mouth, then rolled off the bed, grabbing the dark gray tie from the back of a chair. He wrapped it twice around his fingers, a sly smile in his eyes. "Stay put. I'll make breakfast." Watching his retreating figure into the kitchen, I couldn't stay still. While he was busy frying eggs, I quickly grabbed my clothes and started dressing. Just as I buttoned the third button on my shirt, familiar footsteps approached from behind. Before I could react, my wrist was suddenly seized, and the cool, silky texture wrapped around me. It was the tie in his hand. "Trying to run?" His voice brushed against my ear, warm breath mingling with the words. He tugged lightly on the tie, forcing me to turn and collide into his embrace. His fingers held both ends of the silk loosely around my wrist, leaving just enough slack for movement yet preventing escape. Gu ran. "I told you, stay and have breakfast with me first." The silk rubbed against my wrist, tickling me with an indescribable, ambiguous sensation. I saw the amusement in his eyes, feeling both annoyed and sweetly flustered, and resigned myself to being led to the dining room. Breakfast was already laid out on the table, a sunny side-up egg fried to golden perfection, crispy toasted bread, and a cup of warm milk. A sticky note clung to the side of the cup. His handwriting, "Warm milk. Just right for drinking. Don't drink it cold like you used to." He sat me down at the table, bent over to untie my tie, and folded it neatly on the edge. His movements were so natural, as if he'd done this 1,000 times. "Eat quickly, or the eggs will get cold." He handed me a fork, then picked up a piece of toast himself. Taking a bite, his eyes never left me, as if afraid I might sneak away again. I poked at the sunny side-up egg on my plate, remembering the days of rushing through breakfast alone, just grabbing a quick bite of bread before dashing to the office. Never had I been treated like this. With someone watching over me. Someone handing me milk at just the right temperature. Sunan. I looked up at him. You don't have to hover over me like this. I'm not the little girl from 6 years ago who needed you to worry about everything for me. He set down his toast, reached across the table, and pinched my cheek. To me, you always will be. His gaze was earnest, without a hint of jest. 6 years ago, I failed to take care of you, leaving you to shoulder so much alone. Now, I won't let you run around by yourself anymore. Your matters are my matters. My eyes stung a little. I lowered my head and took a sip of milk, perfectly warm, its sweetness spreading from my throat straight to my heart. He watched me eat breakfast, barely touching his own food. Occasionally, he'd spread jam evenly on my toast or pick the burnt edges off my fried egg, little habits I'd mentioned casually years ago. Yet he'd remembered them all this time. After breakfast, as he cleared the dishes, I wrapped my arms around his waist from behind, pressing my face against his back. I could feel the gentle vibrations of his chest. Sunan. I whispered softly. Thank you. He paused, turned, and pulled me into his embrace, resting his chin on my hair. Why thank me? His fingertips gently tousled my hair. We're family now. Your happiness matters more than anything. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing us in warmth. The silkiness of his tie still lingered on my wrist. My heart felt full, all the old panic and unease gone. I knew that from today onward, I wouldn't have to carry the weight alone anymore. With him behind me, with this home, I could finally slow down and savor this happiness I'd lost and found again. Morning light filtered through the curtain slits, casting dappled patterns on the breakfast plate. I poked at the fried eggs with my fork while watching Sunnan place peeled shrimp into my bowl. He always remembered I disliked peeling shrimp shells. Preparing seafood meticulously beforehand each time. Steam rose from the milk in a cup adorned with tiny rose patterns. He deliberately dug it out of storage yesterday, saying, "You used this cup for so long back then. I never had the heart to throw it away. After breakfast, I'll take you somewhere." He set down his knife and fork, wiped his mouth with a napkin, his eyes holding a mix of mystery and earnestness. There's something I should show you. My chewing of the shrimp paused. A vague unease stirred within me, yet I nodded. After clearing the table, he led me into the study. From the bottom drawer of his desk, he retrieved a black box, the file box he'd often used back then. I remembered it holding his important contracts. Yet now he cradled it carefully in his arms, as if holding some fragile treasure. Open it. He placed the box in my hands, his fingertips lightly pressing the lid. Don't be nervous. It's something that will bring you peace. The lock was long gone. I gently lifted the lid. Inside, there were no documents, only a silver voice recorder and a few yellowed notes. The recorder's casing showed signs of wear, clearly from being handled repeatedly. I picked up the recorder and looked up at Sunan. He nodded encouragingly. The moment I pressed play, a familiar yet jarring voice filled the room, Sunan's mother's. Tinged with the same condescending coldness from years ago, Gu ran. Your mother's hospital bill is still 5,000 short. If you know what's good for you, leave Sunan immediately. I can cover the cost. Otherwise. I didn't hear the rest. The recorder clattered onto the carpet, my fingers trembling too much to pick it up. Tears fell like broken beads onto the file box, blurring the words on the note, a letter I'd written to Sunan years ago. Only half finished. Sunan. I'm sorry. We need to take a break for now. The rest was blurred by tears. But I remembered crying until I couldn't breathe in that rented room when I wrote those words. I found this recording last year while organizing my mother's study. On her old phone. Nan bent down to pick up the recorder. Then pulled me into his arms. His voice slightly hoarse. And these notes, the letters you never mailed. My mother secretly kept them. Buried in his embrace. I sobbed until my whole body shook. Back then, my mother had suffered a sudden acute appendicitis. The surgery cost 50,000 yuan. I borrowed money everywhere but couldn't scrape together enough. When Nan's mother found me, she clutched the payment slip in her hand. She said that if I left Nan, she would cover the cost. She even threatened me, saying that if Nan found out, he would definitely cause trouble. Then, whether my mother could undergo the surgery smoothly would be uncertain. I was terrified of burdening him, and even more terrified of something going wrong with my mother's surgery. I could only pack my things secretly and leave, not even daring to say goodbye. All these years, I thought he'd never learn the truth, that the misunderstanding between us would just stay there forever. I never imagined he'd be so determined, even finding the recording and letter his mother had hidden away. How could you? I choked, my fingers digging into his shirt, nails nearly embedding into his skin. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was afraid you weren't ready yet, he said softly, patting my back gently. His voice as warm as lukewarm water. It took me a long time to track down the hospital where your mother was admitted back then. I even asked the nurses and learned how hard it was for you. I didn't want you to suffer again, so I waited until you were ready to talk before showing you these. I lifted my head, seeing the red veins in his eyes and the dark circles from staying up searching for this evidence. My heart ached with a bittersweet pain. I punched his chest playfully. A mix of hurt and relief. You idiot. Why did you wait so long? I thought you'd blame me for leaving without a word. How could I blame you? He took my hand and placed it over his chest, letting me feel his heartbeat. I only blame myself for not protecting you back then, for making you carry all that alone. He lowered his head to kiss the tears from my face, his voice unwaveringly firm. It won't happen again. Gu ran. I've made things clear with my mother. She won't interfere with us anymore. Whatever comes our way from now on, we'll face it together. No one can tear us apart. Sunlight streamed through the study window, falling on our clasped hands and the black file box. The voice recorder still lay on the carpet, its recording long finished. Yet the weight in my heart finally lifted. Nestled against Nan's chest, listening to his steady heartbeat and feeling the warmth of his palm, I suddenly felt utterly at peace. All those years of grievances, waiting, and anxiety, in this moment, they all became worth it. The truest love, I realized, isn't about never facing storms, but about him still waiting for you after the storm passes. He'll uncover every hidden truth for you and tell you that from now on, we walk this path together. I clasped his hand and gently rubbed his palm. Nan, I whispered, we'll never be apart again. He smiled and nodded, kissing my forehead. His voice brimmed with contentment. Yes. Never apart again. Sunlight streamed through the window, and the fragrance of gardenias from the study drifted in, mingling with the cedar scent from his clothes, enveloping us. I knew that from this moment on, the story of Nan and me truly began, free of misunderstandings, free of secrets, filled only with each other's companionship and endless years together, never to part again.